Hey, everybody, and welcome to my show here. I have some exciting news I can't wait to share with you. But first, I wanted to say hello, and I wanted to encourage you to write in the chat section where you're watching from because it's so cool. We get people from all over the world, and I love hearing about where you're watching from. I'm going to ask you some questions. I want to ask you your opinion on the Super Bowl, on the halftime performance, and other things like these things that are floating around in the atmosphere. I want to get your thoughts about all of that. But first, I wanted to say hello to Super Don. Super Don, are you there?
I'm here.
How are you?
Hello. I'm good. How are you? It's been a little while, hasn't it?
Yes, it has. It has.
How you liking the new show?
I am so excited, and I told you I've got some exciting information that I can't wait to share with people as they are coming in. I really like it. It's a great studio. It's a little bit of a drive to get there, but I've got some great guests, which that's a little bit of a tease. I have a great guest coming up on this Sunday show. So, do you have the link, Super Don, to where people can find my new show called Faith and Freedom on Real America's Voice? Now, I wanted to give you a little bit of a tip on how to watch it. There have been a couple of snafus, and they started a couple minutes late this past Sunday, but Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, you can go to realamericasvoice.com, and they say to say it 3 times so you can remember it. Realamericasvoice.com, realamericasvoice.com.
There's no place like home.
There's no place like home.
Okay.
And you click on the live link and you can watch it live. Now, in case you miss it live, you're doing other things. It is Sunday, but you should be able to watch it before you go to church. But in case you miss it every Sunday, you can always get a recap, and that recap is available on realamericasvoice.com. If you can scroll up, Super Don, to show people what you will look for is at the top where you see Faith and Freedom. You click on the link at the very top where there's
you want to go all the way you want to start all the way from the beginning here?
Let's show them how to do it, because
all right. Let's see here.
Here's the live shot right now of realamericasvoice.com. They've got shows. My husband has a show. You may have heard about it, the Spirit Campfire, Ted Nugent's Spirit Campfire.
Yes.
But up on the black border on the top, you'll see my show. It's the last one, I think, isn't it?
That's okay. That just makes it easy to find, right?
There you go.
You put your cursor over where it says shows, and you just go over here to Faith and Freedom with Shemaine. And then it pops up into this page here.
Yep.
And then if you scroll down, then what do we got down here?
Now, you can click on each segment. So if you just want to, if I say, I interviewed Ted and here's that segment, or I interviewed Governor Rick Perry, you can click on that segment, or I interviewed Jaco Booyens about human trafficking. You can click on those individual segments. And the whole show will be replayed also on Real America's Voice Rumble, and also on my Rumble as well. So
if you subscribe to Real America's Voice on Rumble, you get a notification.
Oh, you do?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's how I know you're on.
Well, good. Well, let's check on some of the comments. Some people coming in here. We've got Diane Bordeaux. You know what? I'm going to actually put my glasses on. Diane Bordeaux from Maine. How are you, Diane? Johnny B. He says, cool. Johnny B, you didn't say where you're from. We've got Daryl from Marshall, Illinois. We've got Frank Bloom from Forestville, New York. We've got Billy Altman from Tacoma, Washington. Who are you seeing, Super Don?
Boy, I got all kinds of people here. We got Craig in Cincinnati. By the way, Craig, I don't know how far Cincinnati is from that train derailment.
Right.
Holy moly. I've never seen anything like that before in my life.
We need to talk about that as well. Craig, if you could write in the comment section if that's near you and what your thoughts are on that, because you're obviously closer or closest to that. Gosh, it sounds like it's affected a wide area, right?
It's a big deal. And I mean, if you look at the cloud, one of the things I was talking about on one of the other shows earlier today is how you've got this huge cloud of just like chemicals and stuff from this thing. Where are all the environmentalists on this?
Yeah.
Right? No,
Right.
no, they're not. They're not out there. They're out there. They'd rather go out and protest about other stuff. But this here, it's a huge deal. Birds dying, fish dying, everything. Not a whole
Yeah.
lot of coverage going on that.
No, and it's quite interesting. I read somewhere, I can't remember where it was, but I'm constantly checking Telegram. I have a Telegram account, by the way, that I post things that I don't post anywhere else. But I think it was on Telegram I was looking, and somebody made the comment that, that train derailment is very, very much describes what's going on in the world.
A train wreck. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Who else do we got here? Gosh, everybody's jumping in, watching on Rumble. Thank you so much, Pookie. Hey, James Shirts from Central Illinois. How are you? Awesome. We've got Kevin Scholl. Kevin Scholl, how are you? Happy Valentine's Day early from Omaha. Cool. All right, so we are going to get into a little Q&A. I want to hear your comments now that we know people are jumping in. I want to hear everybody's comments about how did you like the Super Bowl? How did you like the halftime performance? What are your thoughts on that? And I'm going to start with you, Super Don.
In general, how did I like the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
It was the game was okay. I didn't really have a dog in the fight with the game. I didn't care. My team is the 49ers. They didn't quite make it. So I kind of had a feeling that Mahomes probably was going to do the comeback thing like he usually does. And he did. The halftime performance, it wasn't bad. At least it was, it wasn't weird. It was just a straight up performance. Rihanna, I don't know. I'm familiar with her music just because she was very popular when my kids were younger. So I thought it was okay. I mean, of course, what everybody was talking about was not so much the performance, but it was the baby bump. That was the thing that everybody decided to talk about afterwards.
There is an image floating around somewhere on the internet. Kevin Scholl says horrible halftime, but everybody said they loved it. What do I know? I've heard that same comment. There's an image floating around somewhere where I think you and I are both clicking on comments, but I'm going to let you click on comments now. There's an image floating around somewhere on the internet where they compare, I don't know how I can say this in a PG way, but you used the word, I think you described it, Super Don, as it wasn't weird, right? But
not as weird compared to some of the other halftimes
yes.
that they've been, where it was just like, what did I just watch?
Now you could go deep on this, super deep, and look at the imagery and what it's trying to portray. And of course, amazing performance, really. The fact that she's pregnant and she was, I don't know how she stayed up there and how she didn't freak out being floating around.
That was impressive. I'll admit that was pretty impressive. I wouldn't have done that.
If you look closely, because I look at the details, you could see that when she was being raised towards the end, that platform that she was on was actually wobbling.
Yeah.
I mean, I got scared. Okay, so I see Mark's comment. So there's a image floating around out on the internet somewhere. I don't know. I can't remember where it was. I was trying to find it, but it has to do, if you look up Rihanna's, I hope I don't get flagged for saying this, but symbolism and demonic performance. If you look that up, you'll see some imagery that's not so good. And again, if you go real deep on the surface, yes, it was extraordinary. Ted was sitting there. He's like, wow, this is amazing. I can't believe it. The dancers alone, all that energy, all the hours and days and weeks and months of choreography and planning and rehearsal that went into that, just extraordinary. So on that level, incredible. That was a 10 plus. I've never seen so many dancers. How many dancers do you think there were there, Super Don?
It was a lot, and they all looked the same. It was kind of interesting how they had them all dressed and everything in the outfits and stuff. But I think I'd have to agree with Ted. I thought it was cool. I know there are. It seems like every time there's a halftime show anymore, it's people have their theories about it. and I don't always buy into it. Um, but I didn't see anything in this one. Some of the other ones you've seen, they have people dressed up like, I mean, literally like demons and fire and all
Right.
kinds of crazy stuff. This just seemed like a dance routine to me.
Did you ever
Personally.
see that it was an Olympic opening where there were people in this opening. I want to say it was China, but I'm not sure. But there were people dancing, like nurses pushing kids in hospital beds. Did you see that one?
No, I didn't see
Like
that.
that's
No.
straight out weird. Like what?
Huh.
How? Whoever said that could be a great? Yeah, that's an awesome idea. And then there were literally in the air, the sky, whatever, because I think it was an open air stadium as well. There were things that looked a lot like that little CV thing. You know what I'm talking about? The virus thing. It looked
Yeah.
like that spike protein thing.
Spike
But just
proteins. Yeah.
just bizarre. So on one level, I agree. I think it was an amazing performance, but I had a conversation with somebody who is not feeling very well right now and was very tired. And I said, it's kind of like your white blood cells are really fighting, they're fighting the performance of their lives against the red blood cells. And this person said, yeah, you mean like Rihanna's performance? And I went, wow, I didn't think about it, but it's kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
what are they wearing? It looks like they were.
There's some bizarre furry half jackets or something. I don't know. It was strange. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. Again, you could go deep on this and really not criticize it, but pick it apart. But then again, let's switch gears and look at what's going on in the world today, and with the balloons and all of that. It's interesting to me that a year ago nobody was talking about any kind of spy balloon or anything, and now there's how many are there? 8?
I think it was 4. I mean, it was like
4?
4
Okay.
over the weekend or something. There was like one over Lake Huron, another one that was in Alaska, and one in Canada. So I don't even know. I've tried to wrap my head around it. Yeah, the part about this for me that is bizarre is that I've heard the story about when Orson Welles did War of the Worlds on the radio. And there was panic. I mean, there was sheer panic in the streets, and people were just, losing their minds, and the police, and the people were, riots in the streets and stuff. Now, here we've got, I don't know, it was like a year or two ago, they came out with the first video. Do you remember this from the military? They were showing these videos, and they were showing these unidentified flying objects that were flying around, and they were tracking them, and they were like, they couldn't quite understand how they were flying. They were, and then they would dive into the ocean, and they disappear, and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
And how are people reacting? Well, yeah, whatever. Hey, what's on TV tonight? Hey,
Right.
nobody is like, it's like, I don't know, like people have become desensitized to it. Now we've got these things that are floating around in the air, and they think it might be a balloon. We don't know. Can't figure it out. And I just, what's going on? I honestly, I don't understand. I want to believe it's just the Chinese spying on us, which is a big deal. But
It's kind of, I got the feeling that you're insinuating, let's hope it's just that and not aliens. Is that what you're getting at?
maybe, I don't know. It seems silly to talk about, but I mean, does the possibility exist that there is such a thing and that it could happen?
At this point, nothing would surprise me. I really
save us, right?
I saw somebody posted, let me off this crazy train. And if they are, aliens or something, then I'll gladly go. That's what somebody else said. But
No.
So here's an interesting connection to that story. My Killer House documentary that I made, killerhouse.org. I know you're going to search frantically and try and pull that up. So that documentary, I remember watching a music video that my son did that was stunning, just stunning. And I said, who filmed that? It's unbelievable. And he said, oh, my friend Matt Thompson filmed it. And I'm like, I want to get him to film and produce our Killer House documentary. And so Matt, here's where the story gets all connected. Matt Thompson is Rocco's friend, helped him out on a few music videos. He filmed 90% of Killer House, the documentary that we did. Now, Matt also worked on a television show that I believe was on A&E about aliens. And there's a guy, you might know this. I'm not a big rock and roll fan, so I can't remember his name.
Hmm.
Tom DeLonge. Used to be the lead singer of a famous band, and I apologize. My friends know me that I'm not a big rock and roll fan, but he was the lead singer of a very popular band, and apparently he got tired of that and started producing this television show about aliens. So Matt
Blink 182.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Tom DeLonge. And,
It's a good band.
and if my life depended on it, I couldn't tell you one song. Do you know any of their songs?
I remember listening to them. I think they were a 2000s era group.
Yeah.
Very popular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they traveled all over and they did this TV series. I believe it's on either History or A&E about, they call them Tic Tacs. They look cylindrical shape. They were white and they would just zoom. And I saw, if you've ever watched anything about these UFOs, you've heard them talk about and refer to them as Tic Tacs, that's what they look like. And they just, like you were talking about earlier, like they would just zoom underwater and then zoom up top. And there's video of it that our U.S. Air Force they've had encounters, many people. So it just kind of makes you wonder what the heck is going on. And my question for people watching, do you think this is a distraction? Because nobody's talked about the laptop. Nobody's talked about the classified documents. I'm not even going to say the names of those people, but so I'd love to hear from you guys if you think that this is a coincidence or some people might call it a false flag. All of a sudden we're talking about these balloons and we're not talking about the things that 2 weeks ago were really on our radar. What are your thoughts, Super Don?
Oh, I'm just reading some of the comments here, and actually I had somebody mention this. This is a good point. For people who are saying that it's aliens. It's like, what are they? They're aliens on a budget flying balloons. Yeah, you think if it's an alien with advanced technology, why would they use a balloon? That just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So I would agree with you, Mike. That is a good point to make. But here's the other thing. There are some other ones that they have shot down. They're not quite sure what they are. They didn't look like a balloon. So there's still some unanswered questions. Although the alien thing did come up in the press conference this morning with Karine, whatever her name is.
Jean-Pierre.
Yes. And both her and the Pentagon guy both wanted to reassure people that it's not aliens.
This is a good one. The laptop was shot down over the weekend. Pretty much. You go.
They were trying to get rid of it on the balloon, and somebody shot it down. And
okay, my question for you is, everybody watching and Super Don. So the guy that initially discovered the first balloon, okay, in Montana, it was apparently at 40,000 feet. How do you see that far?
Yeah, the very first one?
Yes.
That was 60,000 feet.
Okay. So
even higher, yes.
I stand corrected.
Yes.
Who does that? I don't know. To me, I'm getting to the point where I question everything. And President Reagan had a good philosophy: trust but verify. Yep. And if there's something that doesn't seem right about it, verify, and it just doesn't seem right about all these things. We've got, I talked in my show Faith and Freedom that we had pulled. You can pull that back up, Super Don. Thank you. My Faith and Freedom show, Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. on realamericasvoice.com. I interviewed Governor Rick Perry, who is a friend. One of the things, you could click on that one specific interview. There's two. I interviewed him for 2 segments, and I asked him in the second segment, if you look at that, I asked him about the spy balloons. What's going on? And also, do you know that there were several balloons balloons that were spotted during the Trump administration. And what's that all about? So there's a lot of questions. I think that this administration needs to be more transparent with us and let us know what's going on. I do believe that, whatever you say about President Trump, you didn't like his tweets. He was a mean tweeter. I mean, yeah, he was a mean tweeter. I believe that if this were the scenario now and they were shooting down these balloons now, that he would be tweeting about what's actually going on. And now we're not, it's like crickets. We're not getting any information at all.
Yeah, you're probably right. It is weird how Biden hasn't said anything, and that's something that a lot of people are talking about right now. That he's just doesn't have much to say, and there's some speculation about that, but I think you're right. I mean, we would have heard a whole lot from Trump by now. He would have been tweeting as soon as he saw it in the sky. So he was not. He didn't hide much.
Yeah, I don't know. It makes me suspicious of just every little thing, and if we look back during the last year or so, it seems like every week there's something new going on. I mean, we haven't talked about the Afghanistan withdrawal and what happened, and now we're going into war with Russia or war with Ukraine. And what's the end game? What's the end result here? If this administration was also in charge of pulling out of Afghanistan, and we all know what happened there. It was just unbelievable what happened. And we left $80 billion worth of military equipment on the ground, and so many people who were such assets to our military personnel, translators there, and even some of our own citizens there. What's the end game with Ukraine? It just makes you wonder, right?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I don't even really have a theory on that. But one thing I do want to know is, where the heck are we getting all this money that we're sending them in Ukraine? Where is that coming from? I mean, $1 billion is like nothing anymore. It's just like, oh, here's. It's like, where's that?
And the other thing that makes me angry about all that is we've got veterans who are homeless, who fought for the right so that we can have this conversation right now. The other countries, you can't even though I've lost the First Amendment, many others have been suppressed. And that's why I started my new show, Faith and Freedom, on Real America's Voice, because I can say whatever I want. And it's not like, Super Don, you've known me for what, a whopping month or two?
A couple months, yeah.
I don't swear much. Yeah. I don't say, I mean, my husband. My husband doesn't hold back at all. No. But yet, here's some new information. Oh, and speaking of information, I'm going to tell you my exciting news in just a minute. I am now banned on Getter.
What?
Yes.
How do you get banned on Getter?
I
didn't know that was possible.
I am still banned on Twitter. No, Elon, I have sent many, many messages to Elon, and also I do have a fake Twitter account. So through that, I sent a message at Elon, please reinstate my original account, which was twitter.com/Shemaine Nugent. I can't get on that. And I've been posting on Getter, Gettr, and I'm banned on Getter now. I went to go post the other day and I'm banned.
Yeah, I thought Getter was the alternative to Twitter because Twitter was.
I kind of wonder if, I don't know. We'll see. But the others, okay, here is the good news. And one of the things that I wanted to tell you about that's exciting news for me, and I hope for you as well. But I do think they are censoring Christians more so than people who don't put their faith out there. For example, here's my exciting news. Do you have a drum roll?
I might. Hold on. Let's see here. Drum roll.
So on this week's Faith and Freedom Show, Sunday, 10 a.m., Eastern time on realamericasvoice.com. You can get it, go right to the internet and watch it there, or it's also on Roku and Pluto and some other things. Another person, another Christian who is censored is Kirk Cameron, and I just got confirmation that I'm going to be interviewing him for this Sunday's show.
That's awesome.
I'm excited. I really am. And you know, it's a shame that if you know anything about what Kirk's been going through, he was not allowed to read his children's book that talks about faith and freedom to kids, talks about being patient and love and kindness and goodness and gentleness and self-control to children. But meanwhile, at the same libraries where he was trying to, request to have a children's story time, he was denied, but yet there was a drag queen story hour.
I remember that.
So I'm going to talk to him about that. I'm super excited. I've had some great guests, and I look forward to having many more. We're also going to have on Sunday Scott Kesterson from Bards FM. If you go to bardsfm.tv, I think it is, or if you look up Podbean, Podbean, where I have a show on Podbean, but Scott has 34 million followers. Can you believe that?
That's a few.
It's a few. So I'm going to be talking to Scott about everything, about AI, about what's going on in the world. Scott is one of the people that I text several times a day, and he's got an unbelievable amount of information. One of the reasons why he got into podcasting is he was over in Afghanistan working for the government and testing out some of these AI programs. And I'll let him talk about that in my show on Sunday, and he could tell you his story. But this information, this technology about AI was around in 2012. It's been around. So imagine if they had it then, what it's developed into now.
Yeah, I think, and I've heard a lot of other people agree with this, that they've just rolled out the AI that you can play around with online. It's called Chat GPT.
Right.
And
right.
Google's come out with their own version of it, and they're going to be competing with it. But you have to assume that if they're rolling it out for the public to play around with, that's something they've had for a long time.
Yep.
So now they're setting that out, and whatever it is they've got is like way more advanced than what they're allowing people to play with.
Have you heard about Dan?
Dan.
So Dan is, Scott's going to talk about it. Dan is for Do Anything Now. It's the uncensored answer. Some anons, if you know what I'm talking about, some anons, A-N.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Got all of their technology resources together, and they created an anon version of Chat GPT, which is called Dan Do Anything Now. I don't know how you access it, but Scott's going to talk about it on the show Sunday. We're going to get into all the AI. But if you go to Chat GPT and you ask a question, it will give you a certain answer. But if you do the same thing on Dan, and again, I don't know how to get to it. I've just started to look into it. I'm going to have more information on Sunday on my show, that it's a totally different answer. So I'm excited to talk to Scott and get more information about that. It's just interesting. Well, the same thing was happening with DuckDuckGo. If you would Google something, ask a question, hey Siri, show me X, Y, or Z, then you'd pull up DuckDuckGo and ask the same thing, type it in, and you get a completely different answer.
Interesting stuff.
Yeah.
I've played around with the Chat GPT a little bit myself.
Have you?
And yeah. When it first came out, I found out about it, and so I've had some fun going back and forth with it and debating it on different stuff and trying to get it to admit things about things like the COVID vaccine and about stuff like that. Yeah, and it's been very interesting. The thing about Chat GPT is it's a language model artificial intelligence. It's not like the Terminator kind of artificial intelligence. That's a different kind of AI. but it's just a language model. And so the way it works is they train the Chat GPT with all kinds of information from Wikipedia and all that stuff all the way up until like 2021, I think it was. And so you can't ask it about anything that's happened since then. But with computers, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Right.
So I mean, whatever it's been trained with is what it's going to use in order to respond to you. So if it's been trained with things like Wikipedia, yeah, you have to imagine it's going to be a kind of a left-leaning, response that you're going to get, because that's just how it's been trained. But it's been fun. You can do serious stuff with it, but you can also do fun stuff with it. You can go in there. You can say, "Hey, write me a poem about cheeseburgers" or something. And
I hear you can also sing or ask it to record a song for you in your voice that's country music or whatever it is.
That one I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, have you heard of this? Ties into the AI. Have you heard of this series on, I believe it's Netflix, called Echo 3?
Haven't seen that one. No.
Okay, look that up and I'll talk to you
Echo
about
3.
that.
Okay.
Echo 3. It's a series that Saturday, Ted and I were like, what I wish there was something to watch. We got all through Yellowstone. I've watched all of Handmaid's Tale. Ted hasn't. We've watched Ozark, which is great. And there've been a couple others that we liked. And so I'm just starting to look through some things, and Echo 3 came up. And we started watching it. Do you know, since Saturday, we have watched 8 episodes.
Yeah, that sounds like my wife and I. Wherever we get latched onto something, and we end up binge watching for sure.
But the point is, Ted asked, how did I find out about it? I've never heard about it. Nobody ever told me anything about it. And AI suggested it based on other things that I've watched. And I'm telling you, it's really good. I'm getting no kickback from it, but if you want a good series to watch, Echo 3 is really, really good.
Okay. It's on Apple TV, it looks like.
Apple TV. Okay.
Okay.
All
Interesting.
Right. Yeah. Well, Super Don, I'm going to wrap it up. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and hopefully we will talk to you again maybe next week. Maybe Mondays is our thing.
Yeah. Same bat time, same bat channel. Works for me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Please check out my show, Faith and Freedom, on RealAmericasVoice.com. It really mean a lot to me if you shared this and also shared that show, because as I mentioned, I'm super suppressed. I am shadow banned on Instagram. I'm banned on Twitter. I'm banned. I would love it if you help me get the word out, because my goal in life is to share the gospel, change people's lives, help them get healthier. And with this new platform on Real America's Voice that I have, I'm able to do that and interview some amazing people like Scott Kesterson and Kirk Cameron, coming up this Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time on RealAmericasVoice.com. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.